What's going now?
Are we recording?
We are not recording yet.
Hit the record button, buddy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. Well, I guess we're in it to win it at this point. Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. Welcome to episode 00001. That's right. We got a lot of them to do.
Wait. I thought you said this was 0000001.
It might be. I could have wrote it down wrong. But yes, we're in it to win it, and live to tape, as my old college professor used to say. Deep in an underground basement somewhere in Los Angeles area, I guess, Southern California.
This is more Orange County. But...
Secret underground bunker. With me today, I've got my partner in crime, my compadre, Mr. Guillermo Garcia, Santa Marina.
Ew!
And on the other side of the table here, we got Chris Anderson. Guillermo is my co-founder with Acme Tea. We're a super awesome tea company. And Chris, what you repping for us today?
I'm the co-owner of CTE, or Californian Terpene Extracts.
All about them terps.
Definitely.
Cool.
His stuff looks fucking incredible. I mean,
it smells delicious.
It smells like I want to smear it on a bagel and eat it. A toasted bagel, or an English muffin maybe, or a nice piece of potato toast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just...
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's like a lemon jam or a lemon... What is that, a puree? Or no, that's not what I'm thinking.
You lost me
lemon
at potato
taste.
toast.
You never had potato toast?
It's like potato bread, but toasted, right?
Right, potato bread toasted.
All right.
I wasn't clear on that. That sounded, like I took a potato, sliced it, and threw it in the toaster. That's not what I meant, people. I meant some potato bread toast.
And I am RJ. Today, for the inaugural podcast, the host with the most, kind of keeping things on track as much as possible.
You do that, brother.
We're going to be digging into a whole bunch of stuff today. It's going to be awesome. But this is basically the podcast that you guys want to tune into if you want to learn something about cannabis. At the table here, we've got both sides of the industry. We've got CBD, we've got THC. They meet in the middle. They give you that nice little sexy entourage effect, which is something we'll get into next episode. Because this episode, as we pass it around and kind of unpack things, we're going to be talking about the differences primarily between hemp and, for lack of a better term, marijuana, which would be the CBD, product that everybody knows and
That's pretty
loves. Good. Marijuana.
The correct Spanish pronunciation
Lay it
is
on me.
the I is a Y, so it'd be marijuana. Marijuana.
See, educational from the freaking get-go. Already checking the box there.
Yep.
What are we?
And my dog barking in the background. That's super awesome.
Oh, Buzz.
Yes, Buzz.
He just wants to get in here and get down on whatever it is that we got passed around the table. What is this actually? Because it's coming out of those. We got a little something on those jars too, right?
I didn't put it.
We haven't loaded the kryptonite yet.
Oh, this is just the warm up.
This is the warm up for sure.
This is just flour.
Sure.
This is California tested, purchased from a licensed dispensary.
Completely legitimate.
Completely legit in the...
Don't demonetize us!
The special packaging and bagging, which that's a whole nother thing. Wasteful packaging.
We got to do an episode on packaging.
Yeah, definitely. They should turn towards hemp, packaging. Biodegradable hemp packaging, for one thing.
Right. It's just the infrastructure, right? There's just nothing... There's nobody processing.
Nobody's doing it yet, but that's where we, could be the innovators.
It's like a 5-year turnaround.
A couple of weeks ago,
shit ton of money.
Because we're looking for packaging options for our tea. We're about ready to, get that launched, and so we went down to a trade show of just nothing but packaging stuff. And
I wish I could have gone to that.
The whole Anaheim Convention Center, the whole Question Mark Place Convention Center was completely filled with all of these manufacturers, everything from labels to bags to boxes. You wanted a box that unfolds into a transformer, like they could make it for you there, right? Two hemp people that could do hemp products, and that's it. That was all that was there. So
let's talk about. We'll hold up for that, because I think that's a
topic.
Kick-ass topic to talk about as well. But we're talking about the difference between hemp and marijuana, right? And so we go back to the history, and it would seem as though this type of plant was just a cannabis plant.
Yeah, originally it was, and then over the years with specific breeding and stuff like that, essentially they have created several different forms of cannabis.
Sure. There's the sativa, right, which is essentially from the plant. The scientific description, it's this plant that could grow very tall, up to 20 feet
to warmer climates.
Produce it, right. Versus an indica, which would be more of a shorter plant, supposedly, and wider leaves and
more hardy for cold environments.
Right, or there's Rudorelius, right, which is the other one.
The autoflower.
Eastern Europe based or cold temperature, dark climate.
Well, and the autoflower is what a lot of people grow indoors, right?
Well, it's not photosensitive. It's not photoperiod sensitive, so they've genetically crossed them with other strains so that they can now, after 90 days.
So let's unpack that.
Have a product.
There was a big word there. I lost track of the syllables. Photosensitive. For those listening that don't quite know what that means.
Sensitive plant.
You know what I mean?
So what that means is that during the light cycle in a season,
we're talking about hours of light in a day.
Right. The hours of light in the day change.
It also has to do with the spectrum of light.
The color changes as well.
Right.
So like in the beginning of the year, it's more green and blue, versus at the end of the year, it's more red and orange.
Due to the way that the earth tilts and the rays that actually make it through to the ground. So
the gravitational pull from the moon, and
don't forget about the lizard people. They've got their influence.
Radiation from space and no, hold on. What are we talking about again?
But basically, so depending upon what that more or less then means is that the plants themselves they react to not just the number of hours of light that they get, but also the color of the light that they're getting in a natural environment. So an autoflower plant doesn't work that way. That works off of a standard timetable of 3 months, 4 months, something along those lines, right?
Well, no. I mean, if a season can be 5 months, depending on where you're at, it could be even longer.
But for an autoflower.
For an autoflowering, yes, it's probably no longer than 4 months or 3 months.
3 months or 4 months, right? Versus like what we grow up in Northern California.
That's just veg cycle.
Right. It's February through October.
I'm going to punch my dogs in the face right now. I'm seriously going to go out and strangle him. He's being such a dick.
We don't actually condone animal violence.
Right. It's just strong words, but I'll just go out there and hug him.
Yeah.
And squeeze him.
So overall, though, with the genus of sativa, it's actually that's supposed to be the main,
describes a lot,
and
right?
Indica and Ruderalis are supposed to be subspecies, they say.
Mm.
And so really, if you look into the whole taxonomy of it, it's kind of different than just there's the three,
right?
And so that's where genetics are coming back to find out, is there really 3 species or is it all just one? And so that's where
well, that's kind of where
a big argument is,
right?
What is it? Is it all the same or not?
So for us growing 10,000, we had about 15,000 individual plants. When we look at that many plants from seed, and you can't distinguish these plants from other cannabis plants or marijuana plants that I've grown. The buds, the flowers, the cannabinoid production, the trichomes, I mean, all of it. Very, very similar. And so it goes back to breeding, right? Because we know that there's fiber strains out there, hemp strains that are very tall and lanky and have very long fibers. And then we know that there's really big seed producers, heavy duty seed producers, which are those plants that have big flowers and a lot of those pistils to grab the pollen out of the air. And then, when I think about it, the market really is dictating like what genetics people are growing for the most part. A fiber doesn't get that much. It doesn't fetch that much.
I mean, currently no, but if you went back to like, the 1940s, you look at
rope.
Hemp for Victory, it's essentially a video all talking about how the United States grew hemp during World War II to use it for rope and
Clothing.
clothing, gas, like because of biofuels.
Mm-hmm.
So really like the textile industry depends, like you were saying, on how much are people wanting to produce those kind of things. So that's
Right.
where even like the packaging, like we were talking about, comes into play. There are only 2 packaging, companies willing to work with hemp because of the fact that people aren't pushing for it. But if more people, especially like we're saying, this is a wasteful product. If more people push for a biodegradable hemp product, I mean, that's already, we're packaging hemp in hemp. Why not? It makes more sense because that's just like we're using the whole plant. We're being more versatile. But again, it does come down to like, the strain of plant or how it was grown, because some are more fibrous and others. And
well, I think that comes down to also one of the big key differences between hemp and marijuana is just the sheer shall we call it availability of scale. You know what I'm saying? Like in the marijuana industry, there's only so many. Even your largest growers weren't growing hundreds or thousands of acres of marijuana plants, right? So trying to get them to I'll just keep talking about nothing while Guillermo gets his dog. So to try to roll that into construction industry, because we've seen some stuff that works on hemp concrete.
Yeah, hempcrete.
Hempcrete,
it's a huge
things
thing
like
right
that.
now.
There just wasn't enough of the plant around for it to really be viable. Whereas I think now that CBD is federally legal, what we're going to start seeing, or CBD industrial hemp, the industrial hemp plant, is we're going to start seeing people that can grow it on hundreds of acres at a time, fully legal and permitted. And for those types of cultivators, it's almost more beneficial to start looking at the industrialized strains for clothing, for hempcrete, for whatever it is, right? Because not only can they hit it, but it doesn't take anywhere near as much effort as growing that perfect bud to smoke or extracting a chemical from the plant or something like that. Like they just bushel it and sell it at that point.
I definitely agree. I mean, because the processing is a lot different. You don't have to be so cautious of how you're growing it because, in the long run, it's not being consumed. Instead, it's being made into something. So you can be a lot more lax on, just throwing a bunch into a field and growing what you need to.
Well, you can get mass agriculture on it at that point. You know what I mean? They can literally plant and harvest something like 10, 15 acres, like with a single tractor a day of hay. Right. And, where we're growing actually is pasteurized hay grass is what it was for. So, you even at that small scale that we're at, we're not at the full commercial size. There's a huge difference in what you can do with a tractor versus what you can do by hand. And unfortunately, for a lot of the premier products or the top end products, there's still a lot of handling that goes into it and everything along those lines. So I think there's going to definitely be a shift towards more that industrialized kind of use as the market develops.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you guys know too much about Federal Hemp, if you follow them.
Might know one or two things about it.
Yeah, so they're like definitely on the higher end of scaling for the industrial hemp. They do processing of millions of pounds essentially. And just last year alone, it was like incredible, like the amount of work they put into, creating their products.
News articles for multiple multi-million-dollar seed deals and things like that. Like they've got tiers for it in the seed distributors now for the different hemp strains. You get special price if you're over like 1 million seeds.
Oh yeah, it's like most things. So you buy in bulk, you get the discounted price, but
Sure.
not everybody can afford that.
But everybody that buys 1 million seeds, that's at least 1.5 million pounds of stuff coming right back out of that field in 6 months or whatever.
But okay, so it sounds to me like we're all agreeing, or we're basically have the same perspective that hemp is really the same thing as marijuana, except it doesn't exhibit the same THC levels.
That's actually the big difference. When you get down to it, like there's, they call it the 5 chemo taxonomies. There's essentially the high levels of THC is one. Another is the more fibrous or high CBD. Another is the mid-range THC and CBD levels, which are like some of like the Harley Quinn strains and stuff like that come out kind of
the 1-to-1s, 2-to-1s, things like
exactly. That. Then you have high CBG levels, which is essentially if you harvest the plant early, it'll still have high CBG before it has produced either THC or CBD, whatever it's going into, and that's actually used for a lot of like isomerization or different extraction techniques that you can create other chemicals with it. And the last one is like one that has pretty much no cannabinoids, and those ones are like more for, again, fibrous stuff, like where you're not really focused on the glands and the trichomes and stuff like that.
Right. And so it's humans throughout history have basically taken this plant and manipulated it either through crossbreeding it or finding and discovering these landrace strains that have these specific attributes, and then utilizing the plant by either means of using it as feed for their animals or eating the seed themselves, using the fibers for rope. I mean, that's throughout the ages the strongest rope that could handle salt water and sun all day long is a hemp rope.
Yep. So most of the ships are made from hemp.
Its use is definitely documented throughout history, from the Egyptians to the Chinese to Europeans. All throughout history, we've used cannabis. It hasn't been until recently where now we have these names to define, okay, well, you are a hemp grower because you're growing a plant that only has 0.03% THC. And it's like, I'm just a farmer. I'm growing this strain because, yes, I'm a hemp grower, I'm a CBD grower, a CBG grower. I'm growing plants that do not have THC, but technically it's the same process if I was growing a plant that had THC. And that's what's frustrating, because what we're seeing is these weird laws. Like right now, a law that's going on in Lake County. They're discussing whether hemp growers can just go and plant plants in a field and let it pollinate naturally. They're like, whoa, nature? What do you mean? No. What if there's pollen drift, and that could go 3-5 miles and even farther depending on weather conditions? And
for the listeners out there, Buzz is all of about 10 inches long and 5 inches tall. He's
tiny little dog,
but he's got the spirit of a Great Dane.
So definitely talking about what you're bringing up, these laws, it's kind of crazy. But if you think about, for centuries, even millennia, there was no laws on cannabis. And then in the 1930s, Reefer Madness came out, and all of a sudden, it's essentially like a propaganda video if you've never seen it. Oh, yeah. But it's just a smear campaign trying to say that marijuana causes people to go insane. And because of that video and a lot of like the campaign that was pushed, for, essentially drug prohibition, in the 1930s, that's when they first started making laws against cannabis. And so that's up until that point, there hasn't been any. And so for less than 100 years, there has been this cannabis prohibition. And so now, just in 2014, they, Obama passed the, first Farm Bill Act, or the Agricultural Act, which essentially talked about, allowing hemp production for research, uses. And then in 2018, that's when they actually did the real Farm Bill Act, which was essentially saying federal, legally hemp production is allowed, but you can only have 0.3% THC or less.
And what's crazy is before that, you could import hemp, you could use hemp, you could make it into stuff, but you couldn't grow it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, there was plenty of, you could buy hemp rope for years, and then, but you just had to import it from whatever,
Canada or Russia or wherever.
Well, even
France.
It's crazy, but even Canada in the 1938 did a whole Narcotics Act that essentially banned marijuana and cannabis as well. And I just think it's hilarious though, less than 100 years that you can see that they tried to like stop this plant from being produced.
The
But why?
demonization of it,
Well,
basically.
and it's really odd because it's like right now in society, our society has never been more accepting of cannabis, of marijuana, of all of these things, but yet we run into so much fear. Even completely legal things that could be done, not to get it too into it, but Guillermo and I just ran into this not too long ago with manufacturing. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody
Not too long ago, like last week.
Yeah, well, I don't know when this is going to air,
Actually,
but yeah,
this week.
it was crazy. It was like everything was on board or whatever, but then they got spooked. They got spooked because they heard news that something happened kind of in their area, and then they didn't want to take a chance anymore. It didn't matter what the test results were. It didn't matter what our permits said or anything like that.
Yeah, it doesn't
They were
matter
just
that
out.
it's legal. It literally doesn't matter that it's legal. It literally doesn't matter that it's legal federally. And it literally doesn't matter that we have a test that we can hand them from a state certified tester, right? So all of that now as hemp growers, legal hemp growers with permits on pristine land, didn't use one drop of pesticides, didn't use one drop of fungicides, no mitricides, nothing at all.
Bugs in a bottle.
We had ladybugs.
Hey, ladybugs are fine. Yeah.
Living in each one of our plants. Just in the morning, they were at the
It was
top
like
of the
each
bud,
plant had
and
its
then
own
they would
little
wake
ladybug.
up. Yeah,
Oh
the
my
little,
God, yeah.
little homies.
Anyways,
Um,
the farm.
it's balance. Anyways, when you change that balance with chemicals and stuff, there's repercussions to pay, but we can get into that later. I guess the point I'm making here is that RJ and I have found, like, even though we're completely legit and we're not even selling anything that has THC in it, you can't get high from our stuff, right? It's a medicinal thing. It's a herbal enhancement thing. It's like a supplement, right? And yet,
The fear.
oh no, it's cannabis.
Well, see, that's even like they did a study last year. I forget where exactly it was published, but they essentially were talking to doctors about, whether or not they would be willing to try to prescribe or like not really prescribe, but suggest CBD use to their patients. And still like 65% of them said, they would suggest it or, at least talk to their patients about it. But there's still 35% of the population of doctors who are still hesitant to even speak to their patients about CBD use.
Vets are the same way, actually, because we've been trying to find an authoritative vet that would be willing to go on the record.
There's one journal published from 2018. There was a publication in. Let me find it
Again, for our listeners, Chris has a copious amounts of notes in his book here, well researched.
And while he's doing that, I'm packing some of his. What is this?
That one is the Zookie's batter.
The batter. Yeah, it's okay to describe it to you over the mic. What essentially
Paint the picture.
It's like a wax and a butter together.
So in
waxy
2018,
butter.
though, in the Journal of Frontiers in
Smells
Veterinary
like-
Science, they actually published the first, essentially trial with animals, dogs specifically, and using CBD oil to help with like osteoporosis. And so, or osteoarthritis is, the term, but essentially arthritis in dogs can be helped using CBD oil. And they've actually done a study already on it that was published. So
Right.
It's like the only one, but it's like even them for like to do studies on
You know
animals
why,
is
RJ,
still
right?
so hesitant.
You know why?
Why?
Why it helps with the joints.
Oh, it's an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's one. And see, that's the thing. And this is
I'm pointing at him right now.
and
You
this
can't
is
see
this
it,
is
but I'm
mutual to
pointing at it.
both I feel like both the THC and the CBD industries is there's so much bullshit science that's out there that's the biggest danger to the industry itself. Right, the process will happen as it becomes more and more embraced of legitimate scientific studies and research and I'm getting distracted. A big old wafty tasty thing just flew by here.
Wow, that's awesome terps, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously, like I'm getting like this almost like a lemon cream. Oh,
And that's all, nothing artificial, all cannabis extracted,
that's
refined.
that
down
is epic. Epic. So we just packed a bowl of a little bit of flour and some of this batter, and it has it's like a cream colored, like a white cream color, and
Would you do invest in
It
some
has-
cough buttons?
it has a mute. It has a consistency of almost like a buttery wax. And
Yeah, definitely would call it the butter or batter.
yeah, it's really. It smells incredible.
It had a good burn to it there.
It's-
Anyways, yeah, that's just to wrap up that point. Is I think that as more and more studies come out, that's going to be great. We're going to start learning more and more about not just what THC can do, but basically what CBD can do, but also what the full spectrum THC, CBDs, the 1-to-1s,
raw,
the 2-to-1s,
how it's meant to be consumed.
right? What
in our
the
eyes.
effects of those actually are, right? And the only thing that we have to worry about really is all of the BS science that's out there that's claiming it's going to do everything from make the blind see to the lame walk again, getting in the way of people actually mismanaging their expectations, right? If somebody takes something and they're like expecting a certain result and it doesn't happen, they're not going to try it again with the right information, right?
I definitely agree with that. The whole cure-all thing with like CBD curing cancer and everything. It's like to call something a cure means that it'll fix it every time, pretty much, or like the majority of the time. And so that's very like subjective to each person. Even like just CBD use alone to me isn't like going to cure all. That's where like we were saying the whole entourage effect or the effects of like all the other cannabinoids or phytochemicals that are a part of the plant. That really ties into like more of the health benefits that you can get from the plant versus just
Mhm.
Right.
taking isolate of CBD or something like that.
And just because we mentioned it a couple times this episode, and I know we're planning to talk about it next episode, but let's just touch on that entourage effect in what that is. That is the full spectrum, because within the cannabis plant, especially casual users, they may have heard of THC. That's a chemical that's in there, but there's a spectrum of cannabinoids and terpenes.
There's
and,
over 500 plus, phytochemicals that are very active inside,
and
each
each
strain
one
of
of
cannabis.
those works with itself or works with its the other ones that are in there to produce a certain type of effect. For the THC side, a certain type of high or a certain type of feeling.
It's also not just even the working with each other, it's also the working within your own body, because our bodies have what we call an endocannabinoid system, or the ECS. And that essentially has like two different receptors. It's the CB1 or the CB2 receptor. And like those two receptors are very specific. Like the CB1 affects your brain, lungs, vascular system, muscles, your stomach, your reproductive organs, immune system, like your liver. All these things are affected in your CB1 receptor, which is, again, part of your endocannabinoid system. And then the CB2 receptor is spleen, like your bones, your skin, your immune system. So like there's different receptors within themselves that like affect you
All
differently.
right.
So some people,
No, let's leave it right there. Got to have a reason for somebody to tune into the next episode. But yeah, so that entourage effect, I mean, that is really where the science is at as far as all that good stuff goes. But yeah, both industries super super exciting. What are some of the other, what would we say, differences between like hemp and the marijuana as far as what people need to know about the two of them? Like for example, like let's talk about like full spectrum and like the hemp side versus what like full spectrum would mean maybe on the THC side.
well, full spectrum on the CBD side, again, if you do it with like, federally legal hemp like you guys do, you're not going to have THC present. It's going to be mostly CBD in the oils. And then you're also going to have the other endocannabinoids, or not endo, but other cannabinoids and other, like chemicals like your terpenes or your flavonoids, or like just even the minerals and like the salts and stuff that are still inside the plant. Like those can even come out inside the the oils. And that really creates a different effect, and at the same time, though, a lot of those aren't going to get, like, some of them might actually create a, like, a high to it, but most of them aren't psychoactive. So you can take a lot of these, like, CBD oils, and you'll get all the, health benefits from it, but without the narcotic effects, essentially, which is really good. Versus, like, when you do THC's full spectrums, essentially, you are going to get high off of it.
I want to add to that real quick in that I believe that the environment, the soil, the climate, sun exposure, where that sun exposure is received on the earth, all these different things make the plant have specific traits from that place that it is grown.
Oh, definitely.
Whether it's indoor or outdoor, whether it's in the Sahara or it's in Greenland, it's the same genetics in terms of seed could be grown in all these different places in the world, and I bet you would get different results, subtle results in
Well,
the terpene profile.
Think
in
about just the
taste, smell.
composition of the soil. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
A
Just
perfect
like wine.
A
Just-
perfect example, actually, I have of that was I went and visited one of my friends in Hawaii and saw one of his grows, and the cannabis that he grew out there in Hawaii was like some of the most tropical smelling, like it was amazing. The looks of it looked like literally I just described it as tropical. Like it's the smell and the look of it was just amazing.
Indica dominant.
Yeah, it was a heavy indica. It had like this incredible purple hue, but it was like not like a dark purple. It was like more of almost pinkish, but like it was the craziest thing though. But it did it on the back side of the leaves, like the underside instead of the top side.
We saw that in our fields.
Yeah, and then so
thought
that
it
was
was
very
from the
interesting in
wind.
itself. But just like we started talking about it, and we're like, well, there's probably like a lot of sulfur and like and ash from the volcanoes and stuff still in the soil, so that probably in the air in general. So like that has to do probably with like mixing with the soil and creating, like you're saying, a different tropical smell and flavor that you probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere else.
Right. And so that's the thing about nature and the thing about what makes cannabis beautiful, and that I'm a little bit concerned about as moving forward these mega companies come in and they create essentially these indoor grown mass produced strains that
monocropping and things like that. too.
yeah, where you end up causing other problems throughout the industry, but also that they're trying to get consistency. Everybody wants the same thing every single time, and that's kind of the part that I think people aren't really understanding because they're not educated about plants or farming or a lot of these other things. I mean, tea, for example, is the same thing. When it's harvested, where it was grown, what was the climate that time, what year was that? It's same thing with a bunch of agricultural products, but like I said,
Whiskeys,
notably
wines.
whiskeys, wines, right? And so to me, I think the embracing that and understanding that more will in the end hopefully perpetuate this genuine love for the whole art of it from beginning to end. I think the more we get into processing and single things out, taking the natural parts of it away, especially the essential oils, that's really going to, as I say to RJ, cheapen the high.
I mean, I think that's a topic in
That's
itself
another
that
topic.
I could go off all day about processing and
of course you can.
extraction and going into that even more in depth and explaining to people why you're saying like if you over process it, you lose so much.
But that's okay. So I think we can unpack that just a little bit because what jumps to my mind, especially given today's kind of subject matter, the differences between the two industries is we are seeing on the CBD side of things, I think, huge scale of extraction, and we're already seeing farms that are multi-hundred acre.
They're going
farms
straight to
and everything else.
isolation too, which is a
Sure.
huge thing because that's.
But on
I
the
mean,
THC side, everything is still very small batch. There's still a lot of growers and stuff like that are out there growing like
or for the certification
trophies
or
and-
the licensing.
well, yeah,
it's
the
a lot more
recreational
difficult.
side of it,
Right.
being only in California and like a few other states is a lot harder than the federal level of CBD production at this point.
Right.
So I think you're seeing a lot of, shall we call it the Coors Light of CBD, right? Because you're seeing these just mass-produced white label products, all these oils on shelves everywhere, everything else. Like that's the Coors Light of CBD. Versus in the marijuana industry, you still can go in and readily, easily.
You have
almost
your craft
any
beers
You've
for
got
sure.
your it's all craft beers. You know what I'm saying? It's all local made, hand done, aged barrels. All that good crap. That makes
That's all-
all the difference in the
that's
world.
Literally.
That's True, but another thing that concerns me is that then the market gets flooded with all these supposedly craft people.
See, the thing though is it's the same thing with any kind of skill
Like-
level. Like some people really, even on the mass scale, cannot produce like as good as when you still stay in those small batches. Like,
Sure. Definitely, I agreed, and I think the small batch or the microbrewer model can exist, especially in a market as big as in California, and you see it in Colorado and in Oregon as well. Definitely a proponent for that. I just want to help educate the customers so they can differentiate, because a lot of times people, well, I can't tell the difference. Well, they haven't trained their palate on cannabis for 30 years. Trying all of these strains from all of these generations and all of these different growers and all these different methods of growing. And
Well, it's so easy to polish a turd too. Like a good fancy package and some quick snazzy
good marketing and
branding.
sales.
Right. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, well, they gloss over the important parts of A, B, or C. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, and earlier when I was talking about all that pseudoscience, like that's all really is out there in the CBD realm. It's just these people making huge claims about bullshit products.
That's actually something I was trying to even suggest, something for my friend earlier about some CBD products, and he was asking like, what are the better products? And I was like, honestly, I have no clue right now because there's just so much out there, and like you said, I can't go out and buy all these products and test them, and like, so I don't know, and so. I mean, I definitely see online sometimes. I look at the prices that people have of their isolates, and they're just through the roof. And you're like, why? Like, I know it doesn't cost you that much to produce this, but yet you're going to charge ridiculous amounts because people just don't know. And if you don't look around and like shop around, you might be spending way too much and not even know it.
Right.
And you might also be getting very mediocre, like you said, Coors Light versus you could have shopped
Sure.
and found something better that might have been lower price for all you know and still could have been 10 times better. But again, without the knowledge and the education to the consumer, it's like, how are you going to pick the right product?
Well, it also comes down to dosing too. I mean, we're talking about, something that's basically a supplement, you know what I'm saying? And people are out there looking at products that range anywhere from 10 milliliters of whatever per dose, all the way up to like 150 milliliters per dose for just droplets of, this, that, or the other. Nobody really knows what they're supposed to take. Like the most experienced people that we've been talking to, like they slowly ramp up until they kind of get and they're disciplined about it and they're, clinical about it.
there's a dosage on the bottle.
Yeah, they go again, but where's the studies for that?
Right. How much do you take for sleep versus anti-inflammatory use?
Sure. And there's also doses based on the law at this point, right?
What's the dose difference between like a topical or a patch or the stuff that you put under your tongue or a gummy?
And how does it affect you
Right.
versus me versus, Joe Blow down the street
Right.
or Jane down the street? No, I'm with you.
It's also what else was in it that,
How it was
creates the different
made, what
effects.
chemicals,
Yeah.
was it some boys in China put this shit together and sneezed on it a couple times? Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, it's too soon. My bad.
Mhm.
My bad. You just don't know, right? And all this certification may or may not be
You can write to
applicable.
Guillermo. That's Guillermo at.
It is a little too soon. Sorry, my bad. But seriously, though, I think there are unscrupulous players out there, and then there's really kick-ass players out there. I must say there's a lot of I don't know. I can't put a percentage on it. I've gone to quite a few Emerald Cups, actually the last, 4 in a row. And every year there's a different vibe, overall similar vibe. But, I've seen it go from free samples and you're talking to the grower, like the guy who literally from seed to sale. And then, as it progressed in the last couple of years, it went to, as the law changed, I think in 2018, that's when it went to the distributors, right? And then that's when the structure came in. And so I see the necessity for structure, but I see that the reason why they're implementing it now is because it's all in preparation for the big companies in 2023. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of the little companies just get gobbled up and turned into.
Sure.
I mean, that's essentially what started happening in the recreational like industry. Once everything went legal for recreational, a lot of the old companies that used to do medicinal products and stuff like that were just getting gobbled up by these huge, essentially it was the green rush. Everybody's coming in thinking they're going to be the big company, and a lot of these people that were coming in didn't have a lot of experience in this industry. They just came in seeing money,
Right.
And so they're buying up all these companies that they think were already like established, but then now with the new laws and everything transferring over, it's changed so much.
Like, look at the brand expansion like MedMen did. You know what I'm saying? Like, they raised so much money, and they were taking, I think, and buying. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they were actually buying like local licensed dispensaries and just rolling them into the MedMen name. They're just outright cash
That's
buying
what
them
most of them are doing. Exactly.
Right,
so essentially, if that that company already had a licensing for the medical side of it, whatever, if they're manufacturing, distribution, licensed delivery, or just even a storefront, a lot of people were coming and buying up essentially the license, because then they were already like grandfathered kind of into the system.
Right.
And so that made it easier for these other companies to just jump right in.
Right.
And so like these companies that were smaller have already put in all the the grunt work, essentially all the hard work to get all the licensing and stuff through. And these bigger companies are just coming in like, here, like, let me give you, $10 million.
And here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that is that once they take the energy out of that company, what was really bringing the customers and garnering the attention was those people. When you gut that and you turn it into this whatever model, right, a uniform model, you get a filtered out experience. It's a super sexy store. Everything's well lit. All these buds on these like wooden varnished little plates and whatnot, but that isn't necessarily what somebody would want when they go in to get information about, give me some details about this. Make me feel comfortable about coming in and trying cannabis for the first time. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think people will turn it into a target of weed, and they're losing money. And
I think there's a lot of them
go
because
because
more
it's
for
like
the Apple Store of weed,
or Apple Store of weed, sure. But you lose the substance or you lose the soul, and it just doesn't work. And on top of that, you have the taxes and the increased retail price because of the increased price for the real estate to buy, because everything in those zones went up in price 3 times, and all these other things.
The California City Gold Rush.
Right. If you were a developer, in the last few years, and you were selling properties or redeveloping properties in cannabis zones,
I mean, just look at Adelanto.
Oh yeah,
and so you look at all these different things which have made the price of the product way more than what it used to be back in the 90s. $65 an eighth for like the bomb stuff from Humboldt, and now we're paying like 85, 95, $100 for an eighth and a joint, and $25 in taxes.
I've seen an $80 eighth recently that my friend bought, and I was blown away. It was not even. I mean, it was good.
It's nowhere close to where it was.
Exactly.
Now. And because it has to be packaged and stamped and sat on a shelf for so long, and anyways, all of that.
That's a topic that I could just get into. So
I know
how long. Please, if you go and buy anything from any storefront in the recreational California legal, just check when it was packaged and when you actually are consuming it, because normally it's been months sitting there before you can even get to it. So it's kind of sad to see how long, some of this packaging just is going to sit there before it even gets out. And I've been inside a few facilities that I've literally seen boxes and boxes and boxes just stacked up of shit that's been there for months.
Right. And then they have to drop the price to move it. And then plus there's only so many smokers, right? I mean, we consume a lot of cannabis here, but I think it's just not anywhere close to how much we actually produce. So it's been traditionally exported, right, to all these neighboring states, and like all our other agricultural products we grow here, from almonds to grapes to whatever.
Avocados.
There you go.
Did you? I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is true. Disclaimer. but I heard recently that Weed Maps 86'd all the black market dispensaries and only lists the legal ones now.
Dude, I've heard that so many times, and then it's still I've seen like they keep constantly trying to update and get like
So they're fighting it.
They've been fighting it for a while.
Nice. Okay, I think
But
that's huge.
It is, but then it's still like
Fighting it how?
just
Trying
depends
to
on the area.
remove
Well,
them from the
they're
app,
shutting
probably.
down, and they won't like they won't add you on the map if you're not like you don't have a license or anything like that.
Well, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Right? Because essentially then you're aiding and abetting the black market.
Sure.
Hey, man, can't hate.
But so here's the thing, right? I guess if you've been in the game at all, then you were in the black market at some point because it's only been since 2018, right? I've been
Well,
messing with this plant
like
since the
medicinally though,
90s.
there's been companies that have been around for a while,
right.
but it's a little different. So
Little collectives and people in your little club, and you're growing for them and delivering for them and all that stuff. That was fully illegal unless you had your little medical card, right? And you were part of this whole collective, and everybody was agreeing that this was a caregiving thing. And
well, you weren't buying it; you were donating it.
right. Or in exchange for services was actually legal, but you couldn't profit necessarily from it. You could recover your costs per se. So to me, going from that, which was considered the gray area, and everybody was rolling with it. Everybody was pretty good with it.
Right, yeah.
And then to what we have now, which is everything has inflated in price and none of it has changed the quality or the consistency. It's only gone down in quality and consistency. And we're paying more for less. And it's harder for a legitimate.
Well, have you seen the tax itemization on the receipt?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And how are our roads not getting fixed? You know what I'm saying? Like, where is the lottery money still going to kids in schools in California?
I have no idea.
I fucking doubt.
I mean, we'll see how it's all spent because it's fairly new, and I'm sure somebody will eventually do a study on it.
The point is that everybody wanted to profit off of this gold rush, green rush thing, right? And we're talking about it turned this plant, this thing into this, I don't know, a sham of what it used to be in the sense of the quality and just the flavors and the smells and just remember the nugs that when you held them, you just wanted to scope so that you could see this glistening snow. And you can't really get that on any of the mass-produced stuff because it has to go through.
But it's on all of the
trimmers
mass-produced stuff, marketing
and-
material.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's weed porn all day fucking long. But then you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, this is like a cheeseburger from McDonald's
Hey,
on
you
the
know-
damn outside window when
you
you're
always got
ordering
to
it.
dress it up a bit.
Another thing that I saw at that marketing expo, and I think I told this to you or whatever, but I thought it was really, really freaking cool. We can cuss on this podcast.
Fuck yeah.
All right. Really fucking
I mean,
cool.
I mean, this is
Fuck
for
yeah.
people 18 and over, I believe.
Yes, it's true.
Oh.
Actually, wait,
we
it's
probably
gotta
should
be
have thrown that at the
21 and
beginning.
over.
Oh,
For some areas.
right.
So there's this package, right? And it's a can. And so they have an app and they have a whole back end infrastructure and everything like that where you can take this app and you scan it and it shows you a picture of exactly what's in there that you can inspect. So when it's packaged, like they photograph the actual buds that end up in that can, and it's trackable through like the QR code or whatever that's like right on the top of it. And so you can like look at it on your phone or you can look at it whatever. Because that's the other thing is like ever since it's gone legit, one of the biggest problems is like you can't really inspect what's going on in any of that packaging.
Exactly, because it's all like, I mean,
It's
most of it's blacked
machines.
out, or like it's like it's all packaged up, so you can't see anything inside.
I mean, granted, there ain't no budtender fingers all over my buds anymore, but you know what I mean. It's
Well,
still,
that's
it's
why
like,
they always. I mean, I don't know.
I miss
I don't
being
know
able to
how
open
often
a
you used to
jar
go
and
into those
shake it,
shops.
at
They would not
least.
touch the weed. They always took like tweezers or like chopsticks and
Mhm.
picked it up. So they were pretty good about that for like a long time.
Yeah, you live
And
in-
those are the
you live-
bougie
you had
ones,
be-
dude.
You
You
had
go in
better
the
gray
ghetto,
market
dude.
dispensaries than I did.
Fuck.
Hey man, so
This
just-
chick with long
it's
ass
not even
nails.
the bougie ones. If they were still like halfway like decent, they
Yeah.
would at least be picking it up with tweezers.
Yeah.
But I mean, speaking of the like QR code things that you're saying, it's actually kind of unique now. They're trying to put QR codes on all the legal dispensaries. So there's actually supposed to be a QR code posted outside of the dispensary
so
that
you
you can
can
scan
verify
and
it.
verify that it is a legal dispensary.
Oh, that's sick. All right.
So then to me,
That'll be the next thing. Everybody will just be posing as legal dispensaries.
Right.
That's
but-
why I was like, oh, someone could just copy a QR code, but then like you notice like, oh, this isn't the right address.
Yeah.
There's ways around it. I definitely know, but I'm just like I like that they're trying to work towards.
Yeah, that's some creative stuff, but really, what's the enforcement going to be? I mean, they're just going to slap you on the wrist because they've been getting paid, and the public's going, "Hey."
And this is
It's the businesses that are pissed. Like, why aren't you enforcing this fucking law?
But think about so just.
But I mean,
again,
they definitely
it's-
have like enforced like quite a bit. I don't know how many shops like got shut down at the beginning.
all the.
They just the whole thing is that these people, the way that they operate, it's like if they get shut down at one spot, they're just gonna pop up somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, we know that.
We're familiar with the model, and the model. I mean, up until like last month, there has been no enforcement.
Yeah,
So-
actually, it has been cracking down. There was this one that was
Yeah.
down the street, and I ended up going down there, and they were selling out of the back of their boot, the boot of their car, just because.
Yeah,
they
I've,
were,
I've seen
you know,
some. Again, that's why. Oh crap! I'll pocket.
We
this
both
one.
have blue lighters. Yeah. So the enforcement thing to me is, it's all a machine, and we need it to happen because if you don't have anybody enforcing these laws, then it's left to our own devices. People will lie, cheat, and steal, unfortunately, and that kind of sucks because
anything for a cash grab.
Well, that's where also
right,
some of the
and that's
laws
what's
are
so
starting
depressing.
to pop up with the, like you said, there's no real regulation on CBD, and so there's like even the what was
It's at
it?
every liquor
The
store,
USDA was starting to
smoke
like
shop, and
come into play and start to like regulate some of the labs that are supposed to be, for extractions or labs for testing and stuff like that, and
Oh yeah,
kind
they
of
need to
put
get
more of a
paid, too.
standard to, like you're saying, so that you can't be making all this Coors Light of, CBD oil that's just trash, and instead
I
you
don't-
have to be more like
look,
regulated
look.
with it.
I know I started that, but I will say for the record, I am a huge fan of Coors Light. Like, give me a silver bullet over anything
Huge
else.
fan. Huge fan.
Huge fan.
Wow.
Huge fan. Like, I don't have any of their memorabilia
Wow.
hanging on my wall. I ain't that redneck, but I do enjoy a crisp, cool, refreshing
Right, I don't
Coors
think you're a
Light from time
huge
to
fan.
time.
Yeah.
No.
So
I
there
don't think
is
you're
a
huge fan.
place for the Coors Light of everything. Okay, there's always a place for it.
Fuck that. The best or nothing.
And that's how honestly sometimes
Fucking the best or nothing.
sometimes
okay,
I get a
not-
little bougie about it, and I don't know. I can't really.
Well, this is the place for bougie.
I can't sell myself short.
No, and hey, look. When it comes to brew, yeah, Coors Light. I'm not a big microbrew fan. That's just not my palate. But when it comes to this type of stuff, like I enjoy those rare flavors, those really hard to find, citrusy, fresh squeezed grapefruit, kind of like
Mango,
I'll
pineapple.
right. I'll chase those strains. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it's all about. And if that's the case, like there will always be the market of people who are going to chase that.
So hear me out. I can't. When you say Coors Light, to
I refuse
me,
to hear you out, sir.
so when I hear Coors Light, that implies to me like that's all you drink. That's if you like Coors Light when you're drinking, and I'm not saying everybody who drinks Coors Light's an alcoholic. What I'm saying is that's one perspective on beer. For me, like all things that you can taste, smell, and eat, I want to try one day, or I want to have. I'm just in the mood for Korean barbecue today, and
Sure.
a Korean beer, a light Korean beer, in a little tiny glass. That's what I feel like drinking and eating. And then other days, it's like, you know what? I really want Spanish tapas, some bacon wrapped dates with goat cheese stuffed inside, and some white sardines, and a sangria. Completely different type of meal, right? And then other
talking
days,
food.
I just
Keep
want to
talking
have
food.
salami,
So
some
hungry.
brie, some grapes, maybe an apple, and
Throw a little aged cheddar in there, some white cheddar for 'em.
sure.
All right. Now we're getting there. Some
Dude,
blue?
that one aged cheddar was so crumbly, and in the inside it had those little, almost like crystals, little
All right,
granules.
confession
so
time.
bomb.
We were really cheesing it up where we grow our
Don't be
stuff.
so cheesy.
There's actually like there's a cheese goat dairy that's next door, and it's super picturesque.
On the farm, there's a goat dairy.
Right. And so we were constantly like delving into the cheeses the entire growing season last.
They produced award-winning cheese out of this
serious
place.
white people shit.
Oh my God, man! You haven't lived until you've been in the middle of a almost 100-year-old walnut orchard eating a melted brie from a hot
I get it.
spring day.
How can you just drink? I mean, I love Guinness, and
I think we've gone off topic. We're
Yeah.
talking about beer and food too much now.
whoops, Boddingtons. Those are some bomb ass beers. If I want to just have a delicious, refreshing beer
But yeah,
with my
so
joint.
That's where you bring it all full circle there. There's always going to be that place, that dynamic or whatever. It's just going to be interesting to see how the industry shapes out. I have a feeling that on the marijuana side of it, just due to scale, it's going to be much more of your microbreweries, your niche products, your strain chasing.
CTEs.
Right. It's just that's a better environment for it to thrive versus I think on the CBD side of things or the industrial hemp side of things, it's in the name, industrial. There are going to be some people coming in there, and it's just going to be the Walmart of CBD, just mass produced and everything else. And so you are going to have to, find brands that you trust and things like that. Versus,
I don't know if you guys have seen this stuff yet, but at like some of the like Target and stuff like that, they have CBD infused pillows.
Dude, I was at Big Five, and they have CBD roller balm for aches and pains. And
Hey, see, that's like that goes with sports and stuff though.
Right.
So like sports athletes have been promoting CBD for a while now because I mean, it's non-narcotic, so it's good for them. Actually, I don't know if you have. I think it was this year. MLB, like Major League Baseball, is now not testing for marijuana in general.
right.
And so again, it's because they see the beneficials for even like athletes.
but see, if the sports athletes are taking it, are they doing the studies on it? Like,
Some of
that
them
would be
definitely- they've
those would
definitely-
be the ones I'd listen to.
They've
You know what I
definitely
mean?
put
Like,
some money.
Dude, I saw the Kardashians advertising stupid iPhone games. And anybody can be bought for any amount of money. You know what I mean? But if somebody's in there, they're doing the studies and they're doing A/B comparisons and that type of stuff. That I'd love to see that.
We'll have to do a story on it.
I mean, so
Stay
far
tuned.
that's part of like the problem with the legality and how we were talking about how people are still kind of hesitant with CBD or just cannabis in general.
Right. So yeah, exactly. And again, just for the people in the cheap seats. So our discussion was essentially,
If you'll turn
Talking
your
about
attention to the PowerPoint slide on the screen at this
THC-filled
moment.
Hey, we're definitely gonna need to get some video. Like some of the stuff I'm gonna talk
Whiteboard.
about, you're gonna need to like see pictures of what I'm talking
Write
about
this
at some
down.
points.
Now, and just for,
I have spoken.
again, this is an inaugural episode. We're not even sure this is going to see the light of day. We'll have to see what it sounds like when we play it back. I'm pretty sure my microphone is broken. I sound so weird. But, no.
sound normal.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just me. But
Maybe it's your headphones, bro.
eventually, like, we could get this into a video podcast, or we could actually like really kind of delve into some stuff there. So
Hold on,
stay
I just
tuned
wanted to
for
make
that.
my point.
Make sure you slap that
Mar-
like button and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen.
Definitely.
Way to go. Good. I'm glad you did that because I would have never remembered. The point I was making is our conversation started with the difference between marijuana and hemp. And I think the takeaway is essentially marijuana describes a plant that has high content of THC, where hemp is a plant that does not have high contents of THC. It has very minuscule amounts, none that could get you high. So I think that's the takeaway. But more importantly, I think what's happening in the market is that people in either game, which is basically the same game, are fighting these rules or having to deal with these rules that are just sometimes unnecessary, costly, and
Well, in the
it makes
story,
it difficult for a legitimate business person to do this unless you have tons of money to throw away.
yeah, one of these episodes we'll have to get into the city that shall not be named and the total scam that went on with their permit process. But Guillermo knows what I'm talking about.
I do know what he's talking about.
Oh my god, I have to
We've
deal with them
applied
this week,
to
by the way.
multiple cities, by the way.
It always
And,
works out that way, doesn't
yeah,
it?
some of them have these wonderful lotteries where like you can pay to buy a ticket to maybe go onto the show, but
I gotta go the ticket.
there's only 3 spots, so
and
the
it's non
other
refundable.
300 of you are probably not going to get a license. So we're just letting you know that $15,000 you're just going to piss it away.
Right.
You know, and by the way, you'll probably no one will be able to pass what they asked for in the application because a lot of it is dependent on other things like, okay, well, where's your address of business? It's like, well, technically you can't even have an address of business, right? Nobody wants to rent to anybody who's in the cannabis business, so you have to do
Unless
it under the
you've got
table,
the
a
thing.
shit ton of money to pay them off
Right.
either way, and they're risking their whole property because it's technically illegal federally, right? What if the Fed comes into the state and, well, they didn't do it in Colorado, and anyways, all these things that someone who's trying to be in the business has to go through, basically getting knocked down multiple times, trying
Over
to
and
hit a
over and over
moving
again.
target that's constantly either backing up or hiding behind a bush.
And on that bright note, Chris, what's going on with you? What's coming down the pipe for California terpene extracts?
I mean, for now, we're just producing what we can. I mean, it's still small scale, so
Whereabouts you guys at on the shelf at, like areas or?
I mean, we're in like Ventura County, and then like somewhere in the valley, kind of bit.
Nice. And what would somebody look for on the shelf if they wanted to pop by there and the logo or?
We got like the CT like
Tell 'em what to
batter,
look
the
for.
CT diamonds. I mean, the batter itself like is honestly some of the best stuff I've ever
It's
even like
bomb. It's
I've
really
ever even
bomb.
smelled or tasted or had my like
It's-
look
It's
of
absolutely delicious.
consuming. The diamonds are a little bit even better actually, so we haven't even gotten to that point yet. So
And you got a Facebook page, right, or something like that?
we got our Instagram page, which is the
Nice.
California Terpene Extracts or California Terpene. Normally, you could find it off that. We're trying to actually promote that quite a bit more,
Well,
and then we're
now's
also
your
starting
chance.
we're starting a website because we're trying to like start a distribution company. I'm not gonna say the name yet because
Smart.
It's all good.
it's kind of funny, and we kind of have to work that whole like side of it out.
And Guillermo, what's coming down the pipe for Acme Tea here?
Well, we've been working very diligently and communicating. We've been working on some manufacturing stuff because the road to market is obscure at best. It's actually, there's a huge canyon from here to the end.
The road
You have
just
to
kind
build a
of drops
bridge
off at a certain point.
Yeah, you literally have to build a bridge across it or a swing or something. We're working on jetpacks right now.
You need a
And
teleporter. That's what we all needed.
the lithium crystals aren't charged up yet. We're working on that. Hopefully, we'll talk to you about some diamonds, maybe some cannabis diamonds to charge this thing
Yeah,
up.
that'll definitely blast you off somewhere.
No, I want to do some CBD diamonds.
Oh, say crystalline CBD.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little different, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely want to like something that I want to actually. One of the big things I've always like wanted to do was like look more into like the live resin CBD plants and stuff like that
Oh, yeah.
to create like essentially this kind of quality stuff, but just with CBD. And so
Are you going to go out in the field and hand rub the buds and get the live resin?
Nah, it's not like that.
Just
You just,
kidding.
I mean, I can go on to how.
Dude, that's how they used to do it, man.
Well, that's one
Out
of
in
the,
the
one of the things we're
Bahamas,
focused on right
Jamaica,
now as well.
and jungles, and
Yeah, it would definitely go. I honestly think that would be a huge topic is just to go more in depth into like the different kinds of extracts, with CBD and THC, and then also like, go into terpene profiles and like stuff like that. There's a lot of topics.
You've progressively gotten further and further away from your microphone. You want to?
still picking you up though. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the
I
mic's good. I can still hear
raising it.
myself.
I keep raising it on this side, but I'm running out of room.
I got
I was-
dogs underneath me now. That's the
Yeah, my
problem.
dogs. They've
I don't want to kick them.
snuggled up to me.
There we go. Now I get it.
See, I don't beat them. They wouldn't come to me if I beat them. I was gonna say, so Acme Tea,
So as of now, we haven't launched yet. We're in pre-launch phase.
right?
We've,
We're very
been-
excited about these teas because we've been working hard on making them as chuggable as possible.
I mean, those things
Uh,
smell amazing. So
oh yeah, the ingredients are awesome,
That
and
was
these
the
blends are.
schnozberry tea, by the way, the one that I
oh,
showed you.
schnozberry,
It
Yeah.
huh?
has real fruit in it. I mean, real dried fruit in it.
So
And
schnozberry is actually a fruit.
no,
So if you want to
that's
know
what's
what a
cool about it.
schnozberry tastes like,
Right,
Schnozberries
exactly.
taste like schnozberries.
Exactly. So yeah, the Acme Tea, for people who don't know, is um we have a story behind it. It's essentially a comic series that goes with the tea blends. And we have these main characters, Ruby, who's named after Rubio's tea, and Herb. They're both the last two remaining loose leaves because well, you have to get into the comic to know, but the two main
no
characters,
spoilers.
right? I don't want to spoil it, but we're trying to use the pop art style and comic book style to not only stand out in the industry visually, but also to sort of educate people on the health benefits of tea, but not in a way like you see right on in any Google search. It's more about kind of getting a little deeper and talking about like these leaves came from the Himalayan mountains and were picked by, these farmers that wait till the perfect time in the season to pick just like two leaves and one bud, and that's it. And that gets dried in a special way. And
And through the storytelling too, it's also educational and like
it's
what the teas are
educational,
used
right? So the
for.
comic
And
books are a means of educating the public on teas and on full spectrum hemp and the benefits of it. And we're going straight from farm to the tea. So there's no crazy processing. Pardon my saying. I had nothing against you.
No,
What I
nothing.
mean is you're literally getting um from farm to your
Farm to
tea
table.
bag, farm to table, farm to cup. And so we're very proud of that because that process is um as natural as possible. In other words, I think the most unnatural part of it is our irrigation system.
well, and as a result too, like even going into the season, we're selecting based off of the flavor and the phenotypes of the actual plants
And
themselves
our
because we're not going to change
climate
it.
and a bunch of other things too. And so we're really trying to not only have an awesome farm product that's natural and that is it doesn't have the least amount of negative inputs as possible, if at all, right? It's all good energy, good positive vibes on the farm. Everybody who works for us hopefully has had a good experience, and I think we just feel that sun grown natural processes are the key to gaining the full benefits of what the plant has to offer us. And I think that our product is not only unique but quite tasty, and does exhibit these properties that come from the other botanicals and herbal ingredients that we have in the blends that um, we're just very pleased with the results. Like instead of drinking a cup of coffee, I can have a little bit of our Zap tea, and it's not as acidic on my stomach. Um,
And not to brag, but we've got a healing tea that I personally will take over your Dayquil, NyQuil, any of that.
I mean,
right.
I definitely know a lot of my friends that would love, some healing teas or like
Hmm.
stuff like that when they're sick because I mean, they
There's
try to
so
stay away from
many
all that stuff themselves.
incredible blends, like fantastic blends, just for flavor. But there's a lot of botanicals out there that essentially is where our pharmaceuticals have been derived from.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
That I could talk all day about
yeah,
that.
we're really proud about the teas that we're going to be releasing soon. So Acme Tea, if you want to check it out, we're on Instagram.
Acme
And
Tea, yeah.
we'll be on the webs soon.
Oh, sign up to be our taste buds. We do free
Yeah, free
samples when we're
samples.
Right,
testing,
we've been
testing our new
working.
blends and stuff.
That's where we've kind of been gauging how strong to make the tea, because some of the flavors, like some of these cardamom and anise flavors, can be really strong. So we're kind of gauging all the blends and getting feedback from people who are telling us like, okay, this is a little light or this is a little heavy. So we can really create the beautiful, perfect tea bag that you can, enjoy.
All right, more on that to come. Chris, any final thoughts?
I mean, I'm just excited to talk so much more about this stuff because I got, pages of, shit to talk about. But
Sick.
Cool.
Guillermo, any final thoughts?
Peace, love, and
smoke weed.
fuck Bloomberg.
Oh, Jesus. There we go. That'll be another podcast. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Again, this is the Contact Buzz podcast coming at you. We'll be having way more of these episodes. So if you liked it, hit the like button or whatever you're listening to. Smash the positive reinforcement button. Leave a comment because, believe it or not, that helps out quite a bit with other people finding us and tuning in. And subscribe, I guess, if you're watching this on the YouTubes. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Arrivederci.